So, as you know, everybody loves designing new products, new features, new technology. But what about the real problem we are trying to solving? What the results we really need to achieve? What we can say about strategy? How OKR can help in product management? To open this exciting day, amazing contents and speakers, we warmly welcome Jeff Gothelf. Jeff, thanks a lot for being here today with us. The stage is yours, my friend.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much. Good morning, folks. Thank you so much for having me as the opening presentation for today's conference. I'm going to jump right into it and share my screen, and we're going to get into this conversation about objectives and key results. Specifically, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about why we need them, what they are, what they look like, how do you write a good statement of objectives and key results, and then ultimately, how do we start to put it into action? How do we plan work with objectives and key results? What does that look like? And then the last thing I'll cover is what are some of the pain points that organizations face when they try to implement this new way of working. So let's jump into it. First and foremost, we need to come to terms with something that is true today and increasingly more true over time. So first and foremost, we're in the software business. Right? Software drives our businesses. It's the way that we scale. It's the way that we compete. It's the way that we learn. It's the way that we get better. And it doesn't matter what your product or service ultimately is or what industry you work in. It's software that runs the business, right? Technology is at the core of everything. Even if you work for a bank, even if you work for an insurance company, the only way that we compete at scale, become a business of scale, or continue to reach more and more consumers is through technology. And that's very, very important because a lot of organizations don't think of themselves as software companies. And yet we all are these days, every organization of scale. Now, the interesting thing about software is that it has changed dramatically. When I started working professionally more than 20 years ago, software was static. It came in a box. We would work for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and we would ship a box of software, and you would have to go to the store to buy that box of software. And so there was a finite end to the work. There was a finite end to the software because it literally was a static thing that we printed on a CD and you had to buy at the store. That sounds ridiculous today. It's ridiculous because that's not how software works today. Software today is continuous. It never ends. We are building systems that we can continuously optimize, that we can learn from continuously, and that we can literally work on forever, right? And to kind of put a fine point on this idea of static software versus continuous systems, right? Think about the businesses that that you use all day, right? Amazon, right? When is Amazon done, right? When is Netflix done? When is Google done, right? When do the folks at Google wake up one day and say, you know what, that's it. That's as good as search is ever going to get. Turn the lights off. We're going home. Right? We're continuously working to improve these systems to better meet customer needs, to better compete, to provide a better experience, whatever it is. And that's the nature of software today. And the large organizations around the world, all organizations are getting them, but it's really interesting when large organizations get it. This quote, and especially the part on screen in orange, is from Francisco Gonzalez, who is the group executive chairman for the big Spanish bank BBVA. He says, we are therefore competing in a race that has no finish line or predetermined route. And that's exactly right. If we're building these continuous systems, then there is no finish line because they never end. And if they never end, then we can't plan a very explicit route to the finish because there is no finish, right? We are continuously learning and continuously adjusting course based on what we are learning. And the amazing thing is that our capability to learn has increased dramatically by our ability to actually ship software into production, to get ideas into market. In 2015, my co-author and business partner, Josh Seiden, and I started doing research for our second book. Our second book is called Sense and Respond. In 2015, we learned that Amazon ships code to production every 11.6 seconds. Right? It's impressive. 5 times a minute, some Amazon customer somewhere in the world experiences a change in the system, right? That was 2015. Fast forward 6 years, and today, Amazon ships code to production every second. 60 times a minute, some Amazon user, customer, somewhere in the world experiences a small change to the system. Every single one of these deployments is an opportunity for Amazon to learn. Every time they put something out there, they get a sense of whether what they've done has actually provided value. And so the faster they can put ideas out there, the faster they learn, the faster they get better, which is incredible. Now, what's also incredible about this, now look, Amazon is the extreme end of things, right? They can do this once a second, but the reality is that we can do this certainly this fast, or we can do it once an hour. We can release software once a day, once a week, once every 2 weeks, et cetera. We can get our ideas out into market as quickly as we can, right? As quickly as we want. That's ultimately what our goal is in all of this. And so what that's transformed is the meaning or the impact of what it means to release software, right? Releasing software has become a non-event. If you can put software out into the market every second, then shipping software is a non-event. You know, when I worked at America Online more than 20 years ago, shipping software was an event because we worked on something for 12 months and then we printed 15 million CDs and then we mailed those CDs to people all over the United States. That was significant. We had a party to celebrate that. You got a t-shirt with the name of the project. But if you can ship software every second or every hour or every day, then shipping software becomes a non-event. And so we have to start to think about the way that our perception of software fundamentally differently, right? This idea that we producing software, our goal is to produce more software, is out of date, because really the only thing I can guarantee that you will have when you ship software, more code, is there's only 2 things I can guarantee that you'll have if you ship more code. The first thing is more code. The second thing is technical debt, right? Beyond that, there's no guarantee that the more code that we put out there actually delivers value, right? Because we can just get ideas out there as quickly as we can. And so if shipping the software isn't the measure of success, what is it? We have to change our measure of success. We have to focus on something else. Because if we just keep shipping stuff into production, we end up with products that look like this, right? They're big, they're bloated. You really only need to use one little slice of it, right? And everything else just gets in the way, right? Think of this as like the Microsoft Word version of a guitar, right? All I want to do is type something on a piece of paper or on screen, but there's all this stuff that gets in the way of me using it, right? So we have to start to measure success differently, not in the deployment of features. So we want to move the conversation from building outputs, making features, to achieving outcomes. Outcomes are measurable changes in human behavior. Outcomes tell us when we've delivered value because we want to see user behavior change for the better. We want to see our customers and our users become more successful. When they do, when their behavior changes in a more positive way, we know we've delivered something of value, right? And this also helps us determine when we are done, because remember, we can ship features infinitely, forever. right? The question is, when do we stop working on some part of the customer experience and move on to another part of that experience? And the answer is when we've achieved enough behavior change. And we need to determine what enough is. We need to be able to set goals in terms of outcomes. And that's where objectives and key results come in. Objectives and key results provide us with a new way to set goals and to measure success in a world where software drives our businesses, software is continuous, and we can deploy software as fast as we want, right? So OKRs really help us to do that. So let's take a look explicitly as to how they do that. I'm going to break them down individually here and give you a sense of what I mean. So let's talk about how to write a good objective statement. The first guess is how to write a good objective statement. One of the tricks is to wear the same shirt every day, because I wear this shirt literally every day. That's why there's a photo of me there. And then to have your cat looking over your shoulder. It's a good place to start writing good objectives. But seriously, right? Objectives are our goals. They can be strategic or they can be tactical, but they are the things that we are trying to achieve. Objectives should be qualitative. This is very important. Qualitative means that you will hear words or you will see words in your objective statements like the best, the go-to destination, the most effective, the easiest to use, the most compelling, right? Those are qualitative descriptors of the goal that we are trying to achieve. An objective should be inspiring. It should be inspirational and aspirational, right? This is a thing that should get the teams out of bed every morning and to work on this. This should be exciting for them. It should be concrete, and it should be very clear what value achieving this goal will provide for the business unit or the organization, and certainly the customer. And then ultimately, objectives need to be time bound. There needs to be a deadline, a specific date that says we are going to achieve this qualitative objective by some date, by some specific goal. Now, to write a good objective statement, the first thing you want to do is you want to start with the problem that you are solving for in the next cycle or cycles. And so I say cycle because it's sort of a generic way to think about a quarter or a half year or whatever your organization's sort of standard time box is, right? But I want you to think about the problem that you and your teams are going to solve in the next cycle, right? That's how we start to write objectives. Now, I have an example here on screen where it's for a hypothetical online learning platform. In my learning platform, we've noticed that customers sign up, take one course, and then leave for another platform saying that our user experience isn't good. Okay, that's the problem that we are addressing in my online learning company, right? For the next cycle. That's my example. We start with the problem. The next thing we want to do is we want to take that problem and turn it into a positive statement. What does it look like if you solve the problem, right? If you solve the problem, what does it look like? And can you say it in a way that has all those elements that I just showed you: qualitative, support the big goal, time bound, etc., right? And so the goal here, right, if we solve the problem, then our platform has the most compelling online learning user experience by the end of the year, right? So people are leaving my platform because of bad user experience. If I solve that problem, we're going to have the most compelling online learning user experience by the end of the year. It's qualitative, it's aspirational, it's time-bound, right? And hopefully it's motivational, right? It gets the teams out of bed. And this is your objective. So we start with the problem and we turn it into a positive statement. And this is how you write a good objective statement. Now, a lot of folks will say, well, what level do I write my objective statement? The most important thing that you can do is to write objectives that your team can achieve. So if you're in a leadership role, your team has influence over the entire product or the business unit or the company or some significant chunk of the user experience, right? So you're going to write objective statements for that large piece of the product or the entire product or the business unit. If you are working on a team that only owns a portion of the customer journey, you're going to write objectives for that portion of the customer journey. So for example, if you're only in charge of the authentication portion of the customer journey, your objective statement should be focused on that. Because if you write objectives that are bigger than what your team can influence, your team will not achieve that objective and you're setting them up to fail. So we want to set the objectives based on what you can influence as a team, as a leader, as the folks working on the specific thing. So that's our objectives. Now, to write good key results, again, you have to wear the same shirt. Key results answer the question, how will we know we have achieved the objective? Key results are quantifiable. This is where we want to see numbers. And more importantly, we want to see ratios or rates, percents, okay? Because that gives us a sense of how we're trending rather than absolute numbers, which lack context, right? Like if we want to say we want to get 1,000 users, is that good? Is that bad, right? I don't know. If you say, look, we're getting 100% more users quarter over quarter, right? That's significant. And so if you have a baseline, you can use a ratio or a rate. If you don't have a baseline, start with an absolute number and then move into ratios or rates, okay? Your key results need to be aggressive. Your team should aspire to hit about 75% of the key results. They should be verifiable with evidence. In other words, I should be able to look at data, analytics, market research, customer feedback, industry reports that tell me that the data that I'm seeing is true. There's evidence to support the key results. And perhaps the most important thing about key results, and if you ask me where this breaks down most often, it's right here. Your key results must be outcomes. They must be measures of human behavior. Okay? We know that we have achieved the goal when people behave differently. If you put outputs as your key results, in other words, you say, our objective is to become the go-to mobile commerce company in Brazil by the end of the year, and your key result is ship the mobile app by Q3, right? You're right back to fixed time, fixed scope, waterfall projects, right? We're completely losing access to agility, continuous learning, improvement, innovation, creativity. We're throwing all that out, right? Your key results have to be measures of human behavior. Absolutely important. Now, in order to determine your key results, you need to decide whose behavior you need to change. Who is your target audience, right? If our goal is to change behavior, whose behavior do we want to change? And again, that could be your current customers, prospective customers, users. You can look internally as well. Maybe we want to change the behavior of our colleagues, our vendors, the leadership teams, designers, engineers, etc. We want to be specific about whose behavior we want to change. And then we ask the key question, right? If we achieve the objective, what will those people be doing differently? Okay, how will their behavior change? Right? If we become the #1 mobile commerce destination in Brazil by the end of the year, what will people be doing differently? Now, in my online learning example, remember, I'm trying to build the most compelling user experience for online learning by the end of the year. So for me, I want to see a 50% decrease in the number of existing customers leaving the service due to user experience, right? That is quantifiable, it's aggressive, I can prove it with evidence, and it's a measure of human behavior, okay? Right, that's a good key result. Now, let's drive this point home a little bit, and then I'll show you some examples of good key results, right? One of the things that we want to differentiate between are these 3 ideas of impact, outcome, and output. And they're important because they help us apply OKRs to our business. Impact are metrics that measure the high-level measures of the health of our business. If you use the term KPIs, impact metrics and KPIs to me are the same thing. Revenue, sales, profit, satisfaction, that kind of stuff. The kind of things that would show up on an executive dashboard. Outcomes are the behavior changes that we see in our users and in our systems that function as leading indicators of our impact metrics. So what do people do in the product that's a leading indicator of sales, revenue, profit, satisfaction, etc.? Output is the stuff that we make. Features, solutions, programs, initiatives, policies, right? That we hope will have an impact on our target audience and change their behavior, which will then help us achieve the impact metric that we're looking for. And again, our key results, unless you are at the top of the if you're at the top of the organization, your key results can be impact metrics, okay? But if you're anywhere below the C-suite or kind of ownership of an entire business unit, your key results are going to be outcomes. Let me show you what I mean with an example completely outside of tech, okay? Let's take it completely outside of tech and digital products and services, and let's talk about a mattress store. Let's assume for a minute that you are the owner of a mattress store. Congratulations, okay? Now, if you are the owner of that mattress store, what do you think your impact metrics are? What are going to be your KPIs, right? The high-level measures of the health of your business, right? So first and foremost, you're looking at sales, right? Number of mattresses sold, profit, top-line revenue, maybe customer satisfaction, right? Those types of things. Those are going to be the impact metrics for your mattress store. Pretty standard stuff, right? Now, let's take it down a level. What are the behaviors that you might observe in the store that would lead to a sale of a mattress? What do you think that would be, right? Those could be things like the number of people who come to the store, right? The number of people who come to the store with their partner, the person that they sleep next to. This is very important. Do they lie down on a mattress? Do they lie down on more than one mattress? How much time they spend in the store? Do they talk to a salesperson? Do they ask about taking away their old mattress? Right? Do they start measuring things? Those types of things, right? Those are the kinds of behaviors that tell us that somebody's about to buy a mattress, right? Those are our outcomes, and that's what should end up in our key results. Now, your store also has output. It also has features, right? The things that you do to the store to try to drive the behaviors that I just described, right? The features of your store. So for example, how many mattresses you have in the store is a feature of it. The layout of the mattress store, the environment, the ambiance of the mattress store, right? Is it a nice place to hang out and maybe take a nap? That type of thing. You can have nice lighting. You can have good coffee to get people in there to do that, right? You can put those protectors that you see in the photo, the green protectors that allow me to lie down on the mattress with my shoes on, right? To encourage me to do that. If none of those features, those are the features of your store, if you implement those features, but it doesn't change the behavior of the customer, it doesn't get them to come to the store, it doesn't get them to lie down on a mattress, it doesn't get them to ask about buying a mattress from a salesperson, if that doesn't happen, then those features didn't work. And we have to change the features in our store. And so the measure of success is not, did we put, foot protectors at the end of every bed, right? Do we have nice coffee in the store, right? Is the design nice? The measure of success is, did people change their behavior? Did they lie down? Did they try the mattress? Did they ask about buying it, right? And this is really the conversation that we're having when we're running our businesses. Is the impact metrics are lagging indicators. They're backwards looking indicators. The outcomes in our key results are leading indicators. They're forward-facing indicators, right? And so again, we want those key results to be outcomes. The impact metric is sales. The behavior change is arriving at the store with a partner, lying down on a mattress, lying down on more than one, asking about removal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what does a good OKR for your mattress store look like? Well, it looks like this. For example, I want to become the #1 seller of mattresses in the Metro Barcelona area by the end of Q3, which was yesterday, I think, right? No, end of Q3, sorry. Well, today's the beginning of Q3. So by today, I hope I'm the #1 seller of mattresses in Metro Barcelona. How do I know? 150% increase in foot traffic. So I want to see 150% increase in the number of people coming to the store, a 50% increase in online to offline referrals and conversions. So people going to the website and coming to the store, and a 33% of my foot traffic comes in with their partner. So at least 1/3 of the people who come to the store come with their partner, right? These are my OKRs, right? So I've got an objective that's aspirational. I've got key results that are inspirational, specific, and aggressive and quantifiable. The one thing that's missing is features. There is no output in my OKR statement, and there shouldn't be any output or features in your OKR statement, right? If we think about my online learning platform, right? This is what my OKR looks like there. Our platform is the most compelling multi-course learning user experience by mid-2021. How do I know? 50% decrease in the number of people leaving the service due to UX, 100% increase in the number of people taking at least 2 courses, and a 30% increase in word-of-mouth referrals, right? All of these are different measures of user behavior. Nothing here speaks to the features that the team will be building. I like to try to find OKRs in the wild from unexpected places. These are OKRs that are publicly available for an organization called the Cleveland Clinic in the United States. The Cleveland Clinic is a high-end medical care facility in Cleveland, of all places, Ohio in the United States, and they publish their OKRs, and they're very good. If you take a look at it, one of them says, best place to receive care anywhere, right? That's a really good objective, right? And their goal, right, was how many safety events happened, right? Serious safety events, they want that number to go down, right? What's the rate of serious safety events? They have another internally facing objective, which is really good. It says best place to work in healthcare. That's a really good objective. And how do they measure that? What's the behavior that they're measuring? What percentage of their employees would recommend it as a place to work? So they want that number to go up. And they have a key result called regrettable turnover. In other words, how many people leave the clinic, stop working there, that we didn't want to stop working here, right? How many people that we like left the company on their own, right? We want that to go down. Really good example of objectives and key results in the wild. Now, let's talk about why. Why should we be using OKRs today? There's a lot of benefits, right? So if we're living in this software-driven, continuous world, there are lots of benefits to using OKRs to set goals. And these are, at least in my opinion, the top 3 benefits of OKRs. First and foremost, because we don't tell teams what to build, we set goals without saying build this feature, we are explicitly asking our teams to do discovery work, to research what combination of code, copy, design, value proposition, business model, etc., is going to have the desired behavior change with our users. Okay, so they're going to go and research and discover the best way to solve this problem rather than just taking a guess and building it and hoping that it would work. By doing discovery work, we are building empathy into the culture of our organization. We start to focus on our customers, their needs, their pain points, their obstacles, and we become a much more customer-centric organization that listens more, that understands the needs and the challenges of our customers and solves their problems in ways that they appreciate rather than ways that we believe are best for them, right? Without validating them. And then the third benefit of OKR, there's lots more, but at least from this list, is the increase in organizational agility, okay? If our goal is to change behavior and we have a hypothesis about how to do that, and we do product discovery work to see whether or not that idea is actually going to change the behavior of our users, we're collecting evidence. And then based on that evidence, we can make a decision to continue with this hypothesis, or to pivot from this hypothesis, or to kill this hypothesis completely and try something new. If we're making course corrections based on evidence from the market, we are being agile. That is the simplest definition of agility that I can come up with. It's making decisions based on evidence from the market, right? By setting our goals to be objectives and key results, we are increasing the agility of our organizations. We're learning, we're assessing our progress, and we're adjusting course in these short cycles. Huge benefits of OKRs, okay? Now, if we're changing the goals, then we're changing the way that we plan the work. Remember the quote from Francisco Gonzalez. He said, look, we cannot, we don't have a finite number of steps. We don't have a roadmap to get there anymore because there's no there. We're just building these continuous systems. So what is a roadmap? What does a product roadmap or a product plan look like when it comes to using OKRs? Well, it looks like this, okay? At the top of your roadmap, and this is a high-level version of this, right? At the top is your long-term strategic theme. This is your objective, right? We want to become the most compelling online user experience, right? We commit, and you can have multiple strategic themes, but you want a different team assigned to each one of these, okay? We then commit to key results for the strategic theme on a quarterly basis, right? In Q1, we believe these are our KR goals. In Q2, we believe these are our goals, Q3, etc. We then come up with a series of hypotheses, our best guesses, the questions that we need to answer in the next quarter about what we might have to build to hit the OKR goals. Okay, so these are our ideas, and we make a list of these ideas. Some of these things are going to be a bit more certain. Some of these are going to be a bit more risky, but here's a list, an initial list of what we think we're going to build in the next cycle. In this case, I'm using quarters as the cycle because it is shorter than a quarter is shorter than a year. Okay, now, as you look further out in time, right, you have less certainty about what's going to happen. Right, we can predict with diminishing accuracy what we are going to work on, and so we should have fewer and fewer guesses as we move forward in time. We might have a sense of what we might do in Q3 and some stuff we might do in like one or two things in Q2 and in Q3, but in Q4, if you think you can predict what you're going to be working on 9 months from now, I'm going to tell you that you're wrong. You don't know what you're going to be working on 9 months from now. And the more that we can assume that, the better. Now, the interesting thing here is that along the way, we check in on a quarterly basis. And at these quarterly check-ins, we're not looking backwards to determine, well, what did we do? We're looking forwards. We're saying, well, what did we build? What did we test? What did we learn? How are we trending towards our key results? And should we keep going in these directions in Q2? Right? Do the key results still make sense? And does the work that we're thinking about still make sense? And we can adjust the prioritization on a quarter by quarter basis. It also allows us to see a little bit further downstream, down the timeline, so we can be a bit more certain now about Q3, and maybe there's something we're going to throw into Q4, right? And so we are iterating the roadmap on a quarterly basis based on the evidence that we're collecting from the work that we're doing in each quarter to achieve the key results. Here's a different description of that. Think about product planning with OKRs in today's world like walking through a fog. If you're walking through a fog, you can see 4 or 5 steps in front of you, but you can't see 10 or 15 steps in front of you. And so if you just start running full speed into the fog, maybe it'll be okay, or maybe you'll run into a tree, or maybe you fall off a cliff, right? And so instead of running full speed, 15 steps, you're going to walk slowly 4 steps, 5 steps. And you're going to assess, because when you walk 5 steps into a fog, now you can see 5 more steps in front of you. You've collected evidence, right? And you might say, look, road's clear up ahead. I'm going to take the next 5 steps. Or you might say, oh, there's a tree in front of me. I'm going to go around the tree. I'm going to make that decision, right? That's a pivot. Or maybe there's just a mountain in front of us and we can't cross the mountain. right? We hit a dead end, we got to kill the idea and go somewhere else, right? That's what product planning looks like. It's like walking through a fog, right? You're revealing more evidence with shorter cycles, okay? And so look, the last thing I want to cover before we finish is what makes OKRs challenging, because it's a simple concept, but actually implementing them is difficult. And these are the 4 things that I've seen in organizations around the world as I've worked with them to help them implement OKRs. First of all is, how do you set them? You can't just give your teams the goals and hope that it'll work. Successful OKRs are a two-way process. They're top down and bottom up. So you as leaders are going to set strategic goals and key results, objectives and key results for your teams. And then you're going to ask your teams to say, well, what can you do to help support the goal? And the teams will come up with their own objectives and key results, and you'll meet in the middle and you can validate their work at that point. But teams who set their own goals do better work, are more passionate about the work because they've set their own trajectory, right? And so it's top down and bottom up. I've talked about this a few times. It's worth mentioning one more time. If the key result is an output, OKRs stop working, right? We're right back to doing waterfall software development. If we set a fixed date and a fixed time, all that learning, all that innovation, all that creativity gets thrown out the door because we have to build this thing and we have to get it done by Thursday, okay? Feature-based KRs break the model. Your KRs need to be outcomes, measures of customer behavior. Now, I talked briefly about product discovery. We need to teach teams how to do product discovery and to allow them to do product discovery, right? This is the process that enables teams to learn. It's research, it's prototyping, it's talking to customers, it's doing A/B tests, MVPs and experiments, right? Many organizations don't know how to do discovery. If you're going to implement OKRs, you need to teach your people how to do product discovery, right? And if you know how to do product discovery, you have to let it happen, right? It is part of the work as much as writing code or creating requirements. Doing research, design, experimentation is part of the process. And if you're looking for a place to start, design thinking is a good tool. Lean UX is an excellent process as well that enables product discovery. Now, the last thing, and then I'll wrap this up, is incentives. Now, if you are in a position to think about how you incentivize and reward your teams, then you really have to think critically about what your organization incentivizes, rewards, celebrates, promotes, and what you're asking your teams to do. Because traditionally, companies incentivize delivery, and that's not by chance, that's by design. We incentivize delivery because delivery is easy to measure. It's binary, right? Did you make the thing? Yeah, there's the thing. I made it, right? And so I can measure that. And if you make the thing and I can measure that, it's easy to measure. I can manage that and I can reward that, right? You made it or you didn't. But key results are different, right? If you hit 50%, if your key result is 50% retention rate and your team hits 32%, is that good? Is that bad? Right? What do we reward? What do we incentivize? We have to change the incentives to fit the kind of work that OKRs demand. Because if we don't, people will optimize to do work that gets them paid. And so if you incentivize delivery, they're going to do delivery, and these OKR things are going to fall by the wayside. And so to bring this together, look, objectives and key results, they reduce risk so you don't build things that people don't want. They drive agility because they build learning. They take advantage of these continuous systems to build learning into the system. They allow you to sense and respond, to inspect and adapt, to be agile. They put an acute focus on the customer, which means your organization is customer obsessed, and they reflect modern ways of working, agile and Scrum and product management, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so with that, I'm going to wrap up. I hope you got a good sense of what OKRs are. If you have any questions, I'd love to take them. And of course, if you don't get them answered here, that's my email address right there where my knees are in that photo. It's jeff@gothelf.co, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay. So with that, thank you so much for listening. I hope you found that valuable, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Alex.
Jeff, thank you very much. The way you inspire us to write better OKRs It's very interesting. I like the way you talk about how OKR can change the people behavior. It's very important. So could you talk a little more about how do you think OKR can really engage the product teams to deliver better products?
I mean, look, we're so used to being told what to build, right? Let me give you a really, really easy way to get your teams starting to think about key results and outcomes and user behavior. Let's say, for example, you work on a team and that team is called the iPhone app team, right? Just the name of the team, the iPhone app team, right? What is the measure of success for that team? Alex, what do you think?
I don't know, maybe the faster delivery faster.
It's to deliver the app. If you're on the iPhone app team, your job is to deliver the iPhone app. Good, bad, otherwise. If you don't ship an iPhone app, why are you on the iPhone app team, right? The measure of success is a feature, it's an output. Take the same group of people, same exact people, and change the name from the iPhone app team to mobile commerce team. Okay? Now, the measure of success can fundamentally change from make the app to increase mobile commerce, right? Let's say a 15% increase in mobile commerce for our site, right? It's such an easy and simple and yet powerful way to get teams to really think differently, right? If I put you on the iPhone app team, okay, I'll design an app. If I put you on the mobile commerce team, well, maybe it's an app, maybe it's a mobile-friendly website, maybe it's beacons, geolocated beacons that when I walk through a geofencing thing, when I walk past your store, my phone lights up and says, "Hey, there's a sale here. Buy some pizza from me." Right? This is a fundamentally different way of thinking about work, and you can start by the simple idea of just changing the names of your teams.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, most people know you because Lean UX, right? Could you please talk about your last book, The Forever Employable, and your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's where is it? There it is, right there. So Forever Employable, and just really quick about Lean UX, just as important because Josh Seiden and I just finished the manuscript for the 3rd edition of Lean UX. So in about 2 months, there's going to be a new version of Lean UX, and it's a big edit. So it was almost like rewriting the book from scratch. So I really look forward to hearing your feedback on that. But Forever Employable, this is a book that I wrote that takes everything I've learned about product design and development and applies it to your career and your professional development. So how do you think about your career, your professional development as a service or as a product that you continuously improve and optimize so that it is attracting opportunities towards you? Really, it's like systems thinking. I talked a lot about systems thinking today, right? If you think about it, the idea is to think about, instead of you pushing into the employment system where you send your CV and you apply for jobs and you apply for interviews, you reverse the flow by providing this service to the community, to the industry. You are pulling continuously on the system and generating opportunities for you, whether they're speaking opportunities or work opportunities or consulting opportunities. And it's a very practical, tactical book with tons of stories about me and a bunch of other folks who've done this successfully. And I hope you get a copy, and I hope you tell me what you think after you have a chance.
Nice. Jeff, thank you very much for being here today and give a great speech. Thank you.